Alright, grade 7, as we know with maths, you are not always given simple, easy, one-step questions. Usually, especially towards the end of the test, you're going to have to bring together lots of different understandings. Okay, so in this question that I've got before you here, we're going to have to bring together our knowledge of a few different angle rules. So, the first thing we need to do is figure out angle A. Well, we know that opposite angles are always the same. So let's colour this one in green because we know it's the same as this one. Okay. And let's colour this angle in red because we know it's the same as this one. So, if we know that, then we know that this angle is going to be the same as this angle. And let's just call this angle X for now. Now to figure out what angle X is, what we have to do is use our knowledge of supplementary angles. So we know that this line, okay, altogether we have 180 degrees here. This is 180 degrees. So right up here, 180 degrees. And if we take 40 degrees, if we take this green away, then we're left with just the red, which is X. So 180 minus 40 is 140. I almost wrote something wrong, but I didn't. 140 degrees. So we know that X is 140 degrees. We know that opposites are the same, so we know that A is 140 degrees. Now, because we know about when a line intersects two parallel lines, that any angles here are going to be the same as the angles here. We know that angle B is actually exactly the same as that 40 degrees, so we know B is 40 degrees. Okay, and we know opposite angles are the same, so we know that C is 40 degrees. Now here's where it gets a bit tricky, because we're going to go all the way back to complementary angles, which was sort of like when we were trying to figure out how to work out right angles. I'll draw it over here. So just a really rough right angle, and we get something like this. And we know that, for instance, this is 30 degrees, and we know that because this is a right angle, we know this is a right angle because this is a right angle, we know. Okay? And these are parallel lines. So, I'll go through that again actually just to explain it a little bit further. We know that this is a right angle, the opposite angle is a right angle. Okay, and we know that because of our rule around 180 degrees, that if this is 90, then what's left is 90, so this is a right angle and this is a right angle because they're opposite. So we know they're all right angle, and we know that when you're intersecting parallel lines, all these angles are going to be the same as all these angles. So we know that these are all 90 as well. So we know that this is 90 degrees. Okay, so now we go back to our complementary rule. So we know if this is 30 degrees, for instance, then we know that all together this has to add up to 90. So to figure out what this angle here is, what we need to do is 90 degrees, take 30 degrees, and then we're left with 60 degrees. So we know that this is 60 degrees. In this case, we know that this is 90 degrees. Okay, so we have 90 degrees. And we take away this 40. Okay, and then we take away, let's call this purple. So we know that all together, so purple plus grey, all together equals 90 degrees. So if we take away that 40, we take away the grey, we just have purple left. And we know that that equals 50 degrees. So D equals 50 degrees. And then we've figured out all the different angles they've asked us to figure out. We figure out A, B, C, and D. But C, we had to bring together our knowledge of angles when lines intersect, our knowledge of angles when a line intersects through two parallel lines. We had to bring in our knowledge of supplementary angles, okay, so trying to figure out one angle when we know the other one when it all adds up to 180, and our knowledge of complementary angles. Okay, so when it's 90, the same, but when it's 90. So we have one of the angles and we need to know the other one. We know altogether it adds up to 90. It's quite easy to figure out what the missing angle is. So we had to bring together heaps and heaps of different understandings, and so this is probably a tricky question, okay? Verging on a B-level question, I would say. So if you got this down, and you're finding this quite simple, you should be very proud.